definitely time for another Sync Century video. I accidentally uploaded... Hold on a second. Yeah. I accidentally uploaded this video to the Sync Century account because I'm now managing like 4 parallel accounts. So if you saw that other video, it was probably confusing out of context. I am now uploading stuff also to this Jordan Barty account. This was my old YouTube account. Man, I hate the fact that Google Plus and all this weirdness is plugged into YouTube for no reason. You know, it's like, for fuck's sake, I'm just trying to access my account page and it's being such a pain. Also, can you tell I'm like internet dinosaur account page? What the hell does that mean? My channel. Yeah, so this was my channel before I was doing stuff with Sync Century. And I'm using it again to log the process of making this album and like trying to make money off of my pictures and sounds directly instead of going back to teach at a university, which is what I was thinking of doing and am no longer going to do. I do want to have a conversation about all of that stuff going on in my life at some point here on the Sync Century channel, because I think I want to continue to use this channel just in the way we've been using it for the really hardcore sync stuff. So it's really important to me to keep this place completely open. The videos I'm putting up here on this YouTube channel and that I'm also putting up on Facebook are a little bit more kind of public face oriented. You know what I mean? I assume by the time people make it over here, they're curious or, you know, have some additional level of investment or engagement. So if people are just dropping by, hello, you know, this is a long and storied journey here already. So there's quite a bit to watch and understand or not understand. But for people who have been following me here on Sync Century, yeah, I definitely just want to direct you to... Whoops, not mirrored, so this is really fucking confusing. There we go. Direct you towards this channel. Because it's all connected in the end. It's all just me, and I'm just working my methods out at various levels in various ways. But yeah, this place has to remain free. I'm a little nervous I'm going to start self-censoring here or something, and it's just, that's the worst and total bullshit. So we're not going to do that. We're going to charge ahead with our completely deranged approach to, maybe not so deranged though, to the world. So, okay. I don't want to have a big conversation. Sorry, I launched like multiple threads there and I'm trying to organize them now. I don't want to have a conversation about all of this stuff going on with Obey Jennifer, which is my new music project. Right now, though, when we do, it's going to be fun because a whole bunch of weird syncy stuff happened around the release of that first video. The log 001. It actually, I just realized, happens to be the 161st video that I uploaded to this Jordan Barty channel. Pretty amazing. So, I don't want to talk about that now because something else happened that just needs immediate commentary. Yeah, this one is freaking me out quite a bit. So, you know, Notre... So just first of all, the fact that Notre Dame decided to catch on fire on the day that I was uploading this new video, which contains red twin stuff in the imagery. I'm not commenting on any of that stuff directly yet on the sort of public broadcast half of the laboratory. I feel that 9/11 Precog is such a radioactive topic that, yeah, it's, people are just going to probably need a little bit of a gentle lead into it. Maybe that's just my fear. Probably people are just cool enough to get it right away. But in any case, I feel very awkward and uncomfortable about it. So I'm trying to control my presentation of it a bit. But I just can't resist, like foreshadowing it a little bit. So I use some clips from Us and, which is the Jordan Peele horror movie that has all this amazing red twin stuff in it. I think maybe, did Alan and I talk about that on the most recent Rainbow Club? I think that's correct. Or maybe it's on one that we haven't published yet. I don't know. So many projects running in parallel now. But, well, anyway, blah, blah, blah. It had I put weird red twin stuff into the ground, basically, of my Facebook video, which is just the same video that's being uploaded to the Jordan Barty account. And then this happened. Just an image on TV that everyone was reacting to that really resonates 9/11, and that a lot of people were connecting to 9/11 in their commentary about it on social media. But people weren't the only eyeballs that connected this to 9/11. I suppose as I've been rambling, you probably read all this already. I'm just going to read it to myself because I just still can't believe that this has already happened. YouTube fact checks the fire at Notre Dame with facts about 9/11. It was designed to fight misinformation, but a relatively new fact-checking feature on YouTube sputtered on Monday as it displayed information about the September 11 attacks alongside live streams of the fire that ravaged Notre Dame Cathedral. The mistake, attributed to a misguided algorithm, I love the way this is written, underscored the difficulties the sprawling video platform faces as it responds to criticism that it has allowed harmful, hateful, and false content to flourish virtually unimpeded. On Monday, news organizations were quick to share live footage on YouTube of the fire as it ripped through Notre Dame. I'm very conflicted, by the way, at the moment about whether or not I'm supposed to say Notre Dame or Notre Dame. I'm not sure how I pronounce this word. I never really say it. But anyway, deeply scarring one of the most recognizable landmarks in Paris. Some of those feeds were presented atop a gray box that, to some viewer confusion, presented information from the Encyclopedia Britannica about the 2001 terrorist attacks. Probably just from saying 9/11 already, this video is going to get this same exact information box. We can just guarantee that that's going to happen by putting some images of 9/11 in here. So I hadn't really considered this before. It's funny. How many images do you think it needs, and how many times do I need to say it before this algorithm will fuse the info box to my video? These are strange questions. I really, really wish that I knew someone at Google or at YouTube could explain to me a little bit how their tech is working. It's very important that we figure this out. Okay, I think we probably tripped the algorithm. We'll see, I guess. Anyway, I was saying, it's funny. I shot a video complaining about the YouTube information panels, whatever they call them. And I took it down because it was just kind of me just like, fuck YouTube, this is the worst thing. I don't know. I had a slightly embarrassing moment watching it on the playback and decided to nix it. And also because I think that there are a lot of things very seriously wrong with YouTube that I kind of only want to make one anti-YouTube video for YouTube, Otherwise, it becomes this weird thing. So when I do a YouTube criticism video, it's going to be focused on things more important probably than these information boxes. Well, except that these information boxes just became tremendously important because they mark the beginning of this process of machine eyes perceiving 9/11 in places that they shouldn't. So that's no longer a speculation. How fucking nuts is that? For like 2 years, I've been wondering about this potential. And here it is, it's happened. This thing saw this, you know. Or rather, this is the data set that it interacted with, but it perceived this. Unreal. Because if it was only slightly, if YouTube's algorithm was just tuned to a slightly different level of abstraction, it would produce the constellation. If it could, you know, that's the thing. We don't have a net probably exactly plugged into all the things that would need to be, and with the correct directives or something to to see this in exactly the way that, but yeah, April 16, 2019. So wait, but this happened in real time, right? So, God, so here's an image of it. Let's see. I wonder what were the... Right, so it's April 15th. Sorry, I'm like so immersed in my own stuff at the moment, I'm not even paying attention to what the date is. But yeah, Monday was the 15th, so yeah, this is an important date. I know people on the kitchen sink and elsewhere are already calculating a lot of the numerological correspondences and sort of date distance correspondences and things surrounding this. So I haven't had an opportunity to look at everybody's great work yet, but I'm really excited to see the deeper web surrounding this event. So this was the image. You see why this is so spectacular, because this doesn't really look anything like this. You know, this is pretty distant. You know, the handed image match stuff we've been doing here is way more precise of a match than this. It's just, like I said, it's just operating at a few different levels of abstraction beyond what this thing can do yet. But there are very many reasons for why this thing is going to be able to do that. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about that. I'm just going to go grab my tablet. Fuck. How has this happened already? It feels early. This feels early. Well, I'm sure it's not early. Maybe 2020 really is the... Let's see here. Pen tools? I haven't done this in a while. Excited. There they are. I slap myself. Like, I can't believe I can't. Sorry, just before we draw here. This is like this is up there with like the most surreal moments of my life. Like, I can't believe this is a headline I'm reading. we now live in a world where a big Google algorithm thought it saw 9/11 in some other picture and tagged it as 9/11. Sorry, I was just like letting this wash over me. First of all, there's just the fact now that the first major case of this sort involved this fucking picture. It involved this 9/11 picture. Think about that for a second. The very first major case, I think, okay, so first of all, maybe I'm getting a little carried away here because I'm losing it that this exists, but maybe that's not true. Maybe there have been some previous cases. I guess we could try to find that out here, maybe. But it's the first thing I've seen anyway. This YouTube misinformation box thing has not been around for that long. So I'm pretty confident in saying, at least off the top of my head here, this is the first major case. And it could have, one might have said it could have been anything. First of all, this event had to happen. This, by the way, quite terrible event. Like, it does break my heart to see this building in flames. But it could... I assume that YouTube's... Okay, let's get the pen back. Let's take these ideas step by step here and try to be slightly reasonable about this. I assume that YouTube's algorithms are probably tuned to notice many different image categories of things that they regard as, whatever. Let's call it controversial content that needs a box, So, okay, anything to do with 9/11, like this video. Probably anything that mentions, like, other famous big things like that, like the JFK assassination or, who knows, whatever. Just many other kinds of things like that. Probably any things that have, like, racist hate speech and things of that sort. I'm not going to draw a swastika here because inevitably it will select this frame as the frame to have as the thumbnail. Instead, I'm just going to put in angry and sort of like sad people. Let's see what else here. Well, who knows? Just whatever. Very many other kinds of examples of things like that. So maybe there could have been something in the news that looked like the JFK assassination. What if there was a big car accident that involved someone's brains getting blown out? Morbid example. And the YouTube eye looked at that and said, oh yeah, that's the JFK assassination. Let's I assume we would have gotten the same kind of article with the same kind of, oh, isn't this a strange thing that's happened? But just with some different content. But it didn't happen that way. At least not in the timeline I'm currently inhabiting. In this timeline, it was the 9/11 image that was first. The first hallucination of YouTube's big content police eye. The first thing it apophenically projected into the wrong place that we know about, that big articles are being written about. I'm sure it mistakes things all the time, but the first major event in our consciousness relating to all this is fucking 9/11. By the way, just like I said, okay, so many questions here. Okay, we know all about this now. We don't have to keep looking at it, because the more that I look at it, the more I'm convinced that the world is like really about to end in some kind of way. I don't think it's going to actually end. Like, we're all going to die kind of thing. At least I rather hope not. That would be a huge, huge bummer of a conclusion to the constellation. So I hope not. I hope it's not going to be some terrible meteor striking the Earth or whatever kind of thing. I don't think so. I think it's what I mean is it is going to be really the end of time in a very profound way. You know, in the way that many of us syncheads, I guess, have already experienced, but it's going to somehow play out on the collective level. I don't even know what that could possibly look like. But okay, so here's what what I'm imagining. So in parallel with all this is this other story going on, which is that YouTube, there's been some like escalation of the YouTube copyright system, like the whole content ID system, just in the last couple weeks. I watched a lot of videos about, especially like music stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on, but basically it looks like right now there are some YouTube algorithms that are going around and finding, you know, chord progressions. This is not a very sensible progression, but anyway, it's just finding chord sequences. So whatever, what's an example? Like, yeah, like Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, covered by Jeff Buckley. Like, that thing is kind of alternating between G major and E minor. And so this algorithm would like find any example of someone just playing these two chords, like maybe just solo on a guitar. This is the weirdest looking guitar of all time. How are there... This doesn't make any sense. Someone playing it on guitar, or I don't know, on piano, or just anything, and then it's saying, that's an instance of something we own. That's Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley, so we're going to demonetize your video or block your video. I think actually it's blocking video, maybe not in this context, I don't know. I don't actually know the details, but that's happening. Things of that sort are happening. And YouTube has a real problem, because YouTube just wants videos on their system, you know? They don't want to prevent people from uploading content. They don't want to prevent people from watching content. That's their whole bread and butter, essentially. So it's really about how they can maintain relationships with the rights holders, content providers, and so on. Well, so basically, here's where I'm going with all this. There are very real sort of legal and market reasons that are motivating YouTube, although they might not know this yet, to develop an algorithm that can think about projection space. This is really an important piece of this story, I think. YouTube has to both satisfy the rights holders that they are catching actual examples of copyright infringement, and they have, so that's the, I don't know, rights holders, and then over here we have the fair use, basically. RH and FU. And so they have to satisfy both of these requirements, right? Their algorithms have to basically the algorithms have to learn how to understand what fair use is. That's the end game of this whole problem. I've thought about this quite a bit. I don't see any other solution for YouTube in the end. They need to train algorithms in such a way that they can distinguish actual infringing content from fair use. But so, okay, now we have to ask, what does an algorithm need to be able to do to understand fair use? Well, it needs to understand the distance, the referential distance between a reference object and, well, actually, the reference object should be the the literal picture. The distance between that and, say, a painting, of maybe a syringe and it's supposed to be a rose. It's more like a weird ghost or something, but the algorithm has to be able to understand that although this may exist in reference to this, and maybe that's deliberate or maybe it's accidental, it's not this. It's not a copy. There's no infringement. It's an interpretation. So YouTube needs to build an algorithm that can understand an interpretation. That means understanding projection space or something like it, because it's about referential and associative connections between images and other sorts of content. So anyway, YouTube has to make this algorithm, because if they don't, they can't run their business effectively. So they're going to make an algorithm that's going to understand fair use. And then what that algorithm is going to do is it's going to go around and look at content. And it's going to know how to understand projection space, symbolic reference, all the things you need to understand associative distance between an artistic reproduction or, say, a remix or reinterpretation versus the actual source image. You see, these are exactly, that would then be exactly the combination of things that would be required to perceive the Red Twins constellation. Because then it's going to look at a painting like Residential Nemesis and it's going to grok to the pattern. It's going to see that it's going to understand that that's a painting of 9/11. And so it's going to slap a content tag on it. It's going to say, this is a painting of 9/11. Right, because it's like currently the algorithm probably couldn't see it, wouldn't catch it, because it doesn't have any concept of, it's just not loose enough. Or maybe because it's too literally minded or something. As soon as it gets a slightly less literal, I really think it could see this. Well, okay, so sorry. It's a little late. I'm a little tired. I'm dealing with a lot today, actually. So those are some disorganized thoughts. I'll probably return it to this. I'm sure I will return to this at some point and flesh this all out very more. Just to keep it moving here. Sorry, that didn't all come together there, maybe. But the point is that I think it's very, very likely that YouTube or some similar service in the near future will have the correct perceptual tools to yield the following situation. So this is down the road a little bit. I don't know how soon something like this might be available, but basically what has to happen is that this kind of computer vision stuff that YouTube is doing behind the scenes has to become democratized a little bit and available for people to play with just as toys. So you need to be able to have something that runs on your desktop or maybe your phone or your browser, or maybe it's going to be in VR. Who knows how this is going to work, but you're going to have some kind of a tool that's going to let you filter large data collections, because that's just going to be something very useful for you to do. You're going to want to say, okay, look at my whole record collection and give me all the albums that have songs that are exactly 3 minutes and 33 seconds, and then I'm going to make a playlist called 333, and share it with my friends. That's just going to be a weird game that people will play with these tools, or things like that. Select some other arbitrary property. Give me every album I have that is in a drop D tuning, and it'll just sort it. It'll be instant. You'll probably just speak the way I just spoke, and then bam, 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 all the thumbnails will line up instantaneously. I think that these, I hope anyway, things are going in a slightly dark way at the moment with tech, but I hope these systems are open enough that you can pipe arbitrary sort of data sets into them, so that it doesn't have to be your iTunes library, but it could just maybe be, ideally we want these things eventually plugged into like a single mega archive that has every piece of information ever in it. I guess that's just the internet, right? So we need the big data Google crawl thing, the massive total infinite library, and then we need that hooked into these little toys that we run. So it's not just my library. It's give me every song in drop D ever. And it'll do that, and it'll be way too much data. So it'll present it to you as this giant cloud, of stuff. And you'll say, okay, it's way too much. So, I applied this one filter, drop D. It's like, okay, and, because these are going to be weird and powerful systems, you'll be able to be very arbitrary with this probably. The sensible thing would then be to say, okay, give me just the ones that feature guitars, or just the ones that are synthesizers or something. But maybe you could just be really weird and say, give me only the albums in drop D that have album covers featuring people in pink hats, and then this cloud over here will shrink down in size very radically. And we'll have just a much smaller number of titles, and then you'll give it maybe a third classification, and you say, no, okay, out of those, give me all the ones that have guitar solos of at least, 1 minute in length. Like, who knows how specific you can be. And then it'll really contract, and, you'll just have a few options. And you'll say, okay, put those on a playlist and, let's see what's going on. People are just going to play these sorts of data games because there's going to be so much data. And these tools are going to be so fluid, I hope. Well, so let's imagine that I have one of these nice tools now. And because of this weird copyright arms race thing that was going on some years ago relative to this future scenario we're imagining, built into this thing is this whole notion of projection space and referentiality and, artistic transformation and all of this. And so what I can do with this particular tool is I can feed it a picture of an actual scene, like, say, a picture of, Big Ben, Let's use a clock tower. And I'll just tell it, find me paintings of this reference object. Well, you could just say that, and it'll try to find images that look like they are paintings of this image. In order for that to work, you see, it's going to have to be a little loose. It's going to have to be a little loose, because if it's looking for exact geometric pixel match stuff, it's not going to be able to find a piece of art, because pieces of art are renditions. So then what? So I'll be able to be more specific then, right? I'll be able to say, give me paintings of this reference object in this particular style from this particular period of time. You know, all of these things will be very instantaneous and very available. What happens if I feed a picture of 9/11 into a system like that and say, find me paintings of that? And then it returns something like Residential Nemesis and maybe very many other paintings that we don't know about yet, that maybe all have really strange additional high-dimensional structures and like of the sorts that we've been tracking here. So here's basically my argument. A system like that, basically we can conceptualize, so we're going to build a very toy version of it just to sort of make a very general observation about these sorts of systems. Here's a slider, you know, a fader. With this fader all the way at the bottom, at like 0, and that's going to be 100, I guess. All the way at 0, this thing basically can't find anything unless it's a literal one-to-one copy. I'll try to make that look like a copy of the reference object. Right? This is like, I'm visualizing it as the lowest 0 on the scale, but that would translate to like maximum literalness in terms of detecting a match. And then with the position up at the top, like all the way at 100, that's when you get like Google Deep Dream that just sees weird dog faces, you know, in everything apathetically. It'll just project your reference object into any data. Well, the interesting areas are going to be in the middle. I'm just thinking about this in terms of, if this is like a big data toy that I'm playing with, I'm not so interested in the purely literal matches or the completely apathenic matches, you know? It's just not very interesting. I'm interested in the weird zones in the middle where I start to get particular strange data sets out of it, where it's not just everywhere or nowhere, but now I get some particular returns. So I'm going to be kind of riding the fader more. You know, I don't know if this is going to be a fader or if it's whatever this is. Who knows what these systems will actually look like. But I just mean, in general, they're going to have some kind of way of controlling these sorts of parameters, you know. So I'm going to want to ride it close to the middle, but it's what I'm imagining, you know, is that there's some position on that slider that if someone just bumps it into the right spot, basically my IMDb list like falls out of it, right? It's going to be all the artifacts that we've been analyzing here. And they'll just sit at some particular position in this future data classifier. Well, so, okay, here are a couple strange questions about that. Like, I can imagine that what we'll see once this zone becomes playable is maybe just an explosion of weird objects like the Red Twins constellation, right? Maybe it is going to be like that. My dear friend and colleague Alan Waller is I think often oriented towards that level of fractality with this. That and yeah, I can really totally see it, that there's just something about that zone, which is, it's almost like the zone of creativity. I don't know exactly, maybe that's wrong, but but that we'll just be living in a kind of a cornucopia of impossible high-dimensional structures that are, just of weird sets. Many weird sets. And yeah, we'll see that there's a weird position on a certain fader in a certain weird data context that yields a bunch of weird 9/11 matches. We'll be able to do that with any kind of other thing, and very strange, weird matches will come out of it. Yeah, I can see that. However, what if it isn't like that at all? What if we only see it with this 9/11 picture? Well, maybe not only, but what if there's like some small set and they all involve like big images that very many people witnessed? Well, I don't know. That's what I'm expecting, though. I really think that's going to happen. I mean, this news is eerie. Well, here's the other piece that ties into this. Maybe. That's good. Glad that number is following me around still. Now, where is this here? Oh, so first let's just look at what's going on here. A fire and its aftermath. Okay, we'll check this out. House to rebuild. Famed statue of Jesus and Virgin Mary spared. That's an interesting detail. Okay, meanwhile, in ESPN land, Notre Dame selects first female to be leprechaun. Okay, donations. The cause remains unknown. What I'm looking for is that there's a mosque fire at the same time. Yes, here we go. Newsweek. Yeah, Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, burned at the same time as flames engulf in Paris. Smoke and fire emerging from the roof of a structure known as the Marwani Prayer Room or Solomon's Stables. Come on.
هاي هي الحريقة يا شباب. خزانة الحارس كلها ولعت.
I don't know how to put all these strange things together yet. Wow, there's just... Something's agitated, though. A burning church that resembles 9/11 imagistically because there's a tower on fire that collapses. That YouTube's algorithms... It's also the first time YouTube's algorithms have misperceived a major event like this in this way publicly. That coincides with a mosque burning in Jerusalem that exists in some kind of associative relationship to Solomon, like the temple, which also is resonated by the Twin Towers, of course. So that's a very odd circle there. Oh, I'm sorry, just mapping out the terrain here. other aspects of this here. Right. In the church, Jesus and the Virgin Mary are spared. So the divine figures are spared from the fire. Shit. Did Alan do another divination this week? Oh, right. Okay, sorry. And then we have I do want to look at Alan's SNES divination here in a second. Notre leprechauns. It's not just that this happened and it's called this. It's in time, right? We're all grokking to that. Like, this is all happening together in time within like a 48-hour window here. This is maybe my inflation or something, but I do have the feeling that we poked something. I do feel like maybe it's fucking crazy to say, we escalated this a little bit or pushed the timeline up on this a little bit. Yeah, my ad blocker's on. And I'm not going to turn it off to access USA Today. Thank you very much. Everything else is a rumor. It's really important that we know that about this. These gatekeepers are just ridiculous. Okay. Okay. I don't know how to think about all that. Let's watch Alan's video. Thank goodness. Okay. Just checking. I don't think I'm subbed to Alan from Jordan Barty account. I'm really hungry and it's late, so I should go eat and then go to bed. I love this, by the way, that YouTube always tries to correct Alan Waller to Alan Walker, and then you have to manually say, it does the same thing with Sync Century. If you Google it, it tries to correct the century to century, and you just get all kinds of stuff that has nothing to do with me, although this looks kind of cool. We should watch that too. Nerd Sync. What that's about. But anyway, you have to also click on, you have to tell it, no, really, I mean this weird thing, and then my life spills out at you. But okay, so anyway, I love that. There's something nicely alchemical about that. It's like, you have to really want to see it. Anyway, here's Alan. Did you do a new one this week? One day ago. So this was kind of almost in time, maybe, with the event. Let's see what was in here. Alan is a very conductive
welcome to
antenna usually.
This week's SNES divination. This week has been a bit crazy, to be honest. The process has been strange. I messed up the random numbers. I had to do this again with the completely different set of games. There's just been...
Here we go. Sorry, I just wanted to grab the... I realized I did watch this one already. Oh, yeah, by the way, just a rep for Alan. Like, these SNES divinations are so cool, and everyone should watch them. Well, okay, we have a tower. Yeah, a lot of this one was about vision. The eyes with explosion.
Been readings. I also had appeared in the past.
Lock on,
right?
realm.
His eyes are covered. He's wearing...
Well, I want to note in a Red Twins context that we do have a red fox here as the first game. It's the Titus logo. Red fox and guy in a visor. It's sign of his birth, witnessing an explosion, playing on the correct side, lock on, wings, interesting. What to make of this one? Super ghouls and ghosts. Mighty Max. They all have men in suits or armor with visors. A tower and a sunset. a red fox, and aerial vehicles with fire, more aerial vehicles with fire, and then a knight. I would almost describe this as a handed match with the mouths over here and the red and the strange animal over here. I guess that counts as a strange animal, but it's more of a mouth. There does seem to be two towers here, right? I also think there's a suggestion of, like, this guy's about to cut off his own head.
Past. Right? His eyes...
The Adventures of Mighty Max stuff always feels personal to me because I was really into that show and I actually had that game, although on the Genesis. Maybe it was a different game, but it was a Mighty Max branded game anyway.
And...
Right, so we had these alternative images here.
And...
Well, okay. What is it now? It's almost 11. It's simply too much information to take in right now. I just wanted to put something here to mark this because it's something quite significant has happened, I think, one way or the other. You know, this is not the dominant note in this story as it's being reported right now. This is like a weird little side conversation, but I would like to go on record and say that I think this is absolutely the most important part of this event. It's YouTube seeing 9/11 in this picture. Unreal. Well, okay. This one was a little bit more disorganized than usual because I was just, trying to fit it in between things. It's a terrible thing to say. Tired and flustered, and wow, this is a crazy thing that happened. But yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out once again. And as always, see you in the future. Bye.